So the biggest thing with any landscape is to plan everything before you put it in the ground. A lot of people are worried about spending a lot of money on their landscape, which is understandable because it can get very expensive. But it gets more expensive when you're making mistakes. And the best way to avoid mistakes is to put everything on paper. That way you can go through things by the plan and you don't have to do everything all at once. So, first thing you want to do with any landscape is to do a site analysis. So that means gathering all information pertaining to the property. So the biggest thing that you want to look at is your environment, and we all know that Utah is a desert, so we don't get very much water. So you want to take a look at the climate, the soils, and the slopes in the landscape. So the next thing that you do after you have the site analysis is you put together a base map. So this is the physical layout of the property. So this includes the property boundaries, and you can see on this one it's just the outermost line on this paper here that shows the property boundaries. And then the existing above ground structures. So if you have a shed or a garage that's detached from the house or anything like that, you need to make sure you put this on this map. And then utilities also. So the one thing that I do when I'm doing a landscape design is I call blue stakes. So, and they can come out for free and they'll mark all your utilities that you have in your yard. And that really helps with the design, so you're not designing something in a space that has utilities underneath it, or digging in an area that has utilities in the area. So after you do the site analysis, the first thing that you do is you do a bubble diagram. So you can see on here there's all those bubbles on there, and all those bubbles have different information on them. So what they're doing here is all those bubbles on there represent spaces. So like for instance, the one on the bottom, it says good sun for vegetable garden or improved soil first. So in their base map, they decided that the soil was bad in that area, but it has good sun. So they're essentially going to take that area and they're going to improve the soil and make it better for a vegetable garden. But they put that in their bubble diagram. The lines on here, which there aren't a ton on this one, but they'll do, those are the circulation routes. And then the arrows, you can see there's one that says views on it. That shows the different views in the landscape that they're trying to keep. So this is very important to do, so because it's easier to move around different areas when you just have it like this and bubbles, so you can move things around better. And there's even things like over on the left side towards the top, it says needs a screen. So there's something there that they're trying to screen out as far as the view goes. So there's things like that you can do. Okay, so then there's the conceptual diagram. So this is after you have the bubble diagram done, everything laid out, you can start putting in mass plantings, trees, shrubs, where you want flowers to go, things like that. So these are some different design elements that you'll use when you're doing a design. So the biggest one is unity, and I've kind of touched on it a little bit with the different design themes and design styles. But what unity does, it attracts and holds attention. It organizes and emphasizes the space, and it has overall feeling of the landscape. So in this picture, you can it holds your attention because things look like they were planned out and they're unified. Everything looks like it belongs in that space. The reason that is that way is they've used balance. So if you took a line on this picture and cut the picture in half, everything that is on the right side is also on the left side. So they used balance to create the unity in this landscape. Another design element is a line. So it's an edge between two materials. So it helps to define areas, it connects people to the landscape, and controls eye movement. So this is a water-wise design that I did 3 or 4 years ago. And what I did is I used a line, and the line that I used was this pathway here, and it moves like a wave through the landscape. And what I was meaning to do with it is I wanted it to attract your attention, and I think it does it quite well. It attracts you around the corner of the house. I think it's a lot nicer than just doing a straight shot. I think it helps to attract you into the pathway a little bit more. So, but there's also other lines in this picture. So where the Kentucky bluegrass is, over there on the left, the line between the grass and the planter bed is also a line. Okay, so the other, some other design elements is color. It adds interest in variety. It's most conspicuous element, but rarely long-lasting. And what I mean by that is, like in this picture to the right, all those flowers there, they're not going to last that long. So I very rarely design with the color of the flowers. I almost always design with the color of the foliage. So I always treat the flowers as temporary, because they are, and the foliage is what I design with, and the flowers are a bonus. So any good landscape design is done that way. Another design element is form. So the shape of a plant and branch structure is a type of form, a shape of the leaves and the flowers is a type of form, a shape of the hardscape, and this really influences the design style. So another design elements is balance, and I kind of talked about it already. I talked about symmetrical balance already in the previous picture, and you can see that on the left. So if you drew a line down the middle, everything is balanced on both sides. That's a very formal design style, though. On the right, this isn't really a residential landscape. This is more of a natural landscape, just a picture someone took, but this is asymmetrical balance. And it's still balanced on both sides, but it's with different elements. So the mountains on the right balance the mountains, the trees on the left. So everything is very balanced. In Japanese garden design, they almost always use the asymmetrical balance, not the symmetrical balance, because they want everything to look more natural and not man-made. And the asymmetrical balance looks more natural than the symmetrical balance. Texture is also very important, and that's just how coarse or fine a surface is. It's used to provide variety, interest, and contrast. A rough texture is more dominant and attracts the eye. A fine texture is less dominant and exaggerates distance. So if you have a really small garden area and you want to make it look bigger, you use finer textures and it makes that area look bigger. If you use coarse textures, it would make the area look smaller. So, but you can kind of see in this picture here, it has a nice variety of different textures, and I think that looks very nice together. But you can also see with this one, back on the color thing, everything was designed around the color of the leaves and the foliage rather than the color of the flowers. So those little flowers right there on the left, the little pink guys, those are the bonus in the design.